In this video, we are going to practice modeling decimals. So I have a grid drawn out. Now, I know it's not perfect, but it'll get the job done. So we're looking here at this grid, and in the grid, I've drawn it 10 units by 10 units. So there's 100 square units in this grid. So this grid represents one hole. If the whole thing was filled in, it would be 1. So what we are going to do is look at a couple of these, and I've provided a decimal number, and we're going to take this decimal number and we're going to shade it in to show it as a model. So here we have 35 hundredths as a decimal, and what we want to do is we want to take it place at a time until we've shaded in the proper amount. And so there's a couple ways we could think about this. This means 35 hundredths. That means we literally have 35 out of 100 if I wanted to make it a fraction. So I could shade in 35 individual squares, individual units, and that would give me 35 hundredths. And I can say that as a decimal or as a fraction. They are equivalent. Okay, they are equivalent to each other. But we can also think about it if I break this down into my decimal place value. So I look at my decimal, I find my ones place. I don't have any holes. So I'm not going to shade this whole thing. That tells me that. So I look to the next place, which is the tenths. I have 3 tenths. Each column has 10. And if you'll notice, there's 10 columns. So 10 by 10 times 10 gives me all 100. So I know I can shade in 3 columns because that is 3 tenths, or that would be the same as 30 hundredths. So I'm going to do that here, and I'm just going to kind of speed through it just a little bit. But there's 1. So 1 set of 10. There's 2 sets of 10. I need 1 more set of 10. Now I'll go back and clean it up just a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we definitely want to see the progress. Okay, so that's not my entire model though, because I still have a 5 in the hundredths place. Remember, it's 35. So those 3 tenths equals the same thing as 30 hundredths, because I have 30 of those shaded in now. But now I need 5 more. So I'm going to go to the next column. I'm not going to shade the whole column. I'm just going to shade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now when I look at my model, I can say that I have shaded in 35 hundredths, 3 tenths, which is the same as 30 hundredths, and then 5 more hundredths combined. So I could say I did 3 tenths, which is the same as 30 hundredths, plus another 5 hundredths. That gave me my 35 hundredths. Okay, let's look at one more, and I'll ask you some questions about this one. But we have, let me adjust this a little bit better. There we go. So we have a little bit of a bigger decimal this time. We have 87 hundredths, and again, there are 100 individual squares that make this one whole. So I have 87 hundredths, or as a fraction, I can say 87 out of 100. And I need to shade in the proper amount. So again, we check our whole number ones place. There's nothing there. We have 0 whole numbers. So I don't have to worry about shading in this entire thing. So next I go to my tenths place, and I have 8. Now remember, 8 tenths, 0.8, is the same thing as 80 hundredths. I can stick a 0 on there, and it won't change the value because I still have an 8 in the 10th place. So I could think of it as, okay, I have to shade in 80 individual squares, or I can just shade 8 columns of 10 because that's also 80. So we're going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're almost completed. 7. So there's 7/10, and we need one more to get 8. So here's my 8th set of 10. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'll fill it in a little bit more. Okay, so we have 8/10. Now, am I finished? No. Hopefully we realize that I'm not. If this was the entire decimal I was dealing with, 8/10 or 80/100, I would be. But I have 87/100. So I have another 7 out of 100. So do I have enough to shade a whole other group of 10? No, I do not, because I don't have another 10th. I have 7 more hundredths. So I have 7 more individual hundredths. So I need to just shade in 7 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So that is our completed model. So we have shown that we had our 8/10 or 80/100. It's the same thing. And then we had to add on another 7/100 to get our total of 87/100. So again, this is just another way to show decimals, and it's another good way to practice your knowledge of decimal place value.